Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
I had this image of you inside of me, like a podcast of me.
Okay. I don't remember that.
That's the opening line of the film.
Okay.
And that's the opening line of a new miniseries.
Wow.
Crack! You hear that sound?
Is that us cracking open a new miniseries?
Yeah, we've cracked it open.
Okay.
Like a champagne bottle. We crack it open.
Great.
And then drink from each half.
Inside, I don't remember that.
That's the opening line. They repeat it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the opening narration, and it's like a in media res, and then they bring it back. later in the
right.
film.
I remember.
I was trying to find the longer one. Look, hey, great. Great. Look, you
great.
know what we're doing great. We don't need to go into this.
I'm David Sims.
I'm Griffin Newman.
All right.
This podcast is called Blank Check with, surprise, Griffin and David.
The two friends.
The two friends. Maybe you heard of us.
Yes.
This is a new miniseries.
Yeah, it's our podcast. We talk about movies, talk about directors. We just finished a big old series on a director.
Pod Night Shamacast.
And now we're going to do a new one.
The Podchowski Casters?
The Podchowski Casters.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
That's what it's called. The Podchowski Casters.
Because we're here to talk about the Wachowskis.
Yes. So this is... We like to pick directors. Every once in a while we do a one-off, but we like to pick directors and go through the filmography and try to get a bigger sense of who these people are. You know, our friend J.D. Amato, past and possibly future guest of the show.
You love referencing this quote.
He said that he thinks all movies are about their filmmaker.
Sure.
And so it's interesting to look at a career.
Yeah.
You know, and we're watching things in linear time. So you see a movie, 3 years later, a new movie comes out.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay. Yeah, but no, yeah, of course, we're watching everything in this larger context.
But also in a condensed time period, which makes it interesting.
And we're watching movies made by directors who get a blank check from Hollywood, and that's the premise of our podcast, and that's what we do. That's the ostensible premise of this show.
Yeah.
And we came up with the Wachowskis like 6 months ago, and we're finally doing it.
If not longer. We had this idea almost concurrent with the Shyamalan idea, because we were like, let's make sure we have two ideas.
You had Shyamalan and I had Wachowskis.
Yes.
That I think that was we came up with a pretty similar time.
Now the Wachowskis at the time, interesting choice. Now a more interesting choice.
Correct.
Born Andy and Larry Wachowski.
Sure.
I think about 4 years ago.
They were born 4 years ago?
No, I'm saying 4 years ago.
I don't know the timeline.
I believe Larry came out as a transgender woman and reintroduced herself to the world as Lana Wachowski.
Yeah, I think Lana came out sort of, having it was
a slow process,
but around when Speed Racer came out, so 2008, so 8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Already made their films very fascinating, right?
Sure.
Because their films are very
prominent Hollywood directors,
yes,
but who make pretty weird, challenging movies for considering that.
On a big budget mainstream level.
Often on a big budget mainstream level.
Yeah, but very odd mainstream studio films. And they're also all about identity.
Absolutely.
And the sort of like transience of identity and our physical bodies in relation to our human spirits. All these interesting things, right?
Yeah.
So you start to look at it through that prism. You go, interesting.
Wow. Yeah, sure. Right. Well, they used to build themselves as the Wachowski brothers, and like now they're the Wachowskis, and you're like, oh, that's crazy.
And I think they were erroneously, in the wake of The Matrix, viewed as these hyper-masculine filmmakers.
Yeah.
Because people were looking at the wrong elements.
I think they were tagged as like, and we'll get to this, but they were tagged as like sort of the ultimate like kind of nerdy bro types who like, ladies with guns and like skin tight, I mean, like The Matrix got ripped off in so many bad ways that maybe that sort of got tagged onto the Wachowskis.
Yes, I think people like looked at the things that the people who didn't
like
understand The Matrix
and like violence, guns,
exactly,
that kind of stuff.
About a month ago.
Yeah, really recently, and much more like the. Lana's transition was like kind of like talked about for years.
It was
and,
a gradual thing. There were murmurs, and then there was a while before she finally sort of came out and publicly addressed it and everything.
Right. This was a sudden, sort of much more like surprising thing, at least for me. I mean, I'll admit I don't follow too closely the personal lives of most directors.
Yes. Lily Wachowski,
Right.
the second Wachowski sibling, it came out that the Daily Mail was about to out her, and she took the bull by the horns in a very shitty situation, as reflective
Very
of a
shitty situation.
garbage world I'm constantly reminded we live in.
You know, we live in a garbage world.
One of these garbage worlds we live in. And wrote a piece about her, her journey
that's worth
to
reading.
this point.
Yep.
So, statistically, the odds of two siblings in one family being transgendered, very small.
Don't know nothing about statistics.
I don't either. I don't know, but
I don't know.
It seems rare, right? Which makes it interesting. And then you also go like, okay, so they're two siblings in the same family. They work
They're
together.
filmmakers. They work
We've
together.
never had a major transgender filmmaker before, and now we have two of them.
They explore these themes in their movies in ways both major, and their TV show in ways both major and minor, and sort of obvious and subtextual. And
now that's not the only prism we're going to view their films through.
I mean, honestly, when I proposed this as a blank check, it's
that
more
wasn't on our
obviously
mind,
it's like kind of like Shyamalan. These are guys who made The Matrix, and I use guys in a gender neutral sense, but they made The Matrix. And it was a huge, out of the box, crazy hit. That,
Second movie, humongous.
Unlike anything anyone was prepared for, this like weird R-rated movie was this huge, surprise smash. And ever since then, they've gotten to make the most bonkers movies, like you can imagine, with the biggest budgets. None of them have hit. I mean,
that's the thing. Yeah, none of them have
the
really.
Matrix sequels, I think, made a profit or whatever, but were disappointing relative to the original, and
all of these movies were pretty much disliked.
Yeah,
and were other than Matrix Reloaded financial disappointments.
Always had fans, but critically disliked out of the gate. Almost always sort of rediscovered a couple years later, maybe for their traits. Their good stuff, like movies like Speed Racer,
right?
Cloud Atlas, Jupiter Ascending, which we've talked about on this podcast.
I think in our very first episode we talked about how much we like Jupiter Ascending.
The Netflix series Sense8, which I think is coming back.
Yeah.
For a second season.
Yeah.
The Wachowskis.
We're
going to talk about the Wachowskis.
We're talking about their first film today,
so
Bound.
Excited. Yeah, we're going to talk about Bound today.
But before we do, little housekeeping.
Oh,
okay?
Major housekeeping. Guys, it's been a crazy time. I've got a cold as well, so if you can hear that in my voice.
Because you folks at home.
Oh, boy. You just every Monday morning, you open your podcast app.
Ooh, nice clean episode.
And you're like, oh, hey, blank check.
Here we go. Backstage, boy, chaos.
Oh,
our schedule's been all over the place. It's been a lot of difficulty getting a new episode out every week, banking some up, not being for a while, trying to sneak in, whatever. Not important to you, but this is what is important. Last weekend, I recorded 2 episodes in one go.
Yes.
We recorded The Buried Secret of M. Night Shyamalan.
2 very loopy episodes.
Very loopy. We were feeling both pretty loopy.
When we were running behind, Griffin's career has been very chaotic as of late.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
But, it's been hard to pin you down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we recorded 2 at once. We recorded Buried Secret, which you've heard at this point.
Yeah, a dissection of an unseen movie that nobody watched.
Yeah, that no one makes sense of. Although I will say, our friend of the show, Caroline Anderson, works for Comedy Bang Bang.
Hey, Caroline.
A wonderful human being.
Shout out, Caroline.
I saw her recently, and she told me that she, in fact, not only watched Buried Secret in preparation for our episode, but rewatched. Because Caroline is, to date, the only person I've ever spoken to who watched that live when it aired on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Wow.
So she rewatched it.
That's crazy. I didn't think anyway. I thought it got a 0 Nielsen rating.
Yeah, I did too. Apparently, one person is so negligible they rounded down to 0. But I think Caroline was the only one who watched it live. Mm-hmm. We did that episode, right? And by the way, if you've
listened to it, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
And you should give it a shot.
We recorded a second episode right after that. We were feeling double loopy.
Mm-hmm.
This is an episode we'd promised for a while. We usually like to do a little palate cleanser.
It was a Sunday afternoon.
We like to do a little palate, a sherbet in between miniseries to cleanse the palate, right?
Yeah, we like to intersperse, a little bonus between major miniseries.
Right. So we did a long-promised Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice bonus episode that was alternately titled, depending on who you ask.
Oh, who cares what it was titled?
Griffin v David: Dawn of Ben, or Watchmen v BVS: Dawn of Snyder, or something dumb like that, right?
Yeah.
We were pretty loopy.
Oh boy.
It was pretty ramshackle.
Yeah, it was the worst episode we've ever recorded.
I think bar none. I was going to try to talk around it, but yeah, it was the worst episode we've ever recorded.
It was a piece of garbage. I think about 45 minutes in, we realized what was happening.
Yeah.
And we didn't save it, but we proceeded to just be weirder as a result.
We threw a lot of shit at the wall, and then we sort of said to Ben, like, well, it was probably a good 45 minutes of there, right? Like, we talked for an hour and a half.
I remember, Ben, when we were done recording, Ben, you just leaned into the microphone and like spoke to your engineer and just was like, I'm sorry.
No, I was telling Brian, who helps edit the show,
Brian,
I am so sorry.
Yeah.
This is going to take a lot of time.
So now, I don't want you to think that we haven't released this episode because it was bad. We were going to release it.
it. We have no vanity.
It was going to go out there.
I believe in this being a warts and all show. Right? I think we have tolerant fans, and I want you to understand the narrative of what we're going through psychologically on a week-to-week basis.
But the Lord God himself
intervened,
reached down from the sky and corrupted the audio of this episode so profoundly.
Like every
it cannot be released.
Like once a minute, 5 seconds of audio drop out. Is that accurate, Ben?
Yes.
Is it more frequent than that?
No, it's like every few minutes or so, a couple of seconds, but enough where it's just like you lose context of the terrible things we're talking about.
Because, yes, we're talking about awful things, but we're also in our classic style going like so fast through like so many dense different like bits
literally,
facts
we started this episode thinking we were going to talk about Watchmen and Batman versus Superman. An hour in, we're like, oh, I guess we're just not going to
We're just only going to talk about
Watchmen.
bullshit. Yeah.
Oh, God.
It was dense and it was messy, right?
David was yelling.
And so the audio...
I was yelling.
You're yelling. The audio was so bad that we were like, this episode's barely going to make sense. It already barely made sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It's going to be difficult to listen to. So this is our current plan. We had long promised that we were going to do a Batman vs. Superman episode. At this point, the movie's been out a month. I don't know if
Literally nobody cares about the movie.
Everyone's chewed it up, digested it, shit it out, ate the shit it back out again, right?
The shit. Yeah.
They did. They ate the shit. They drank the diarrhea.
I made a face at that.
No one needed us to weigh in anymore.
Nope.
And I think about 15 minutes into the episode, we were like, oh, no one needs us to weigh in on this anymore. But there was the much ballyhooed aspect that we were going to cover.
It's true. It was much ballyhooed.
It was much ballyhooed.
I'll just summarize this. You and Ben saw the fucking movie in 4DX.
Wait, who?
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, wait, David, who are you talking about?
Oh, here we go.
Producer Ben, a.k.a. Purduer Ben, a.k.a. the Ben-Deucer, a.k.a. the Poet Laureate, a.k.a. the Haas, a.k.a. Mr. Positive, a.k.a. the Tiebreaker, a.k.a. Birthday Benny, a.k.a. the Fuckmaster, a.k.a. the Peeper.
Yeah.
Not Professor Crispy.
But
he is...
Ben Night Shyamalan.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing? Kylo Ben.
Yeah, Kylo Ben. But he's in there in the booth.
Man of many names.
Hello Fennel.
Hello Fennel. Well, we greet him Hello Fennel.
No, you and Ben saw it in 4DX, which is some sort of like radical like punching technology, like viewing experience where the seat like sucks your dick or whatever. I don't know. Like
and
it's
it
like
sprays you in your face with water.
It just
First
sounds
of all,
terrible.
That's very crass.
I know. I'm a very crass person.
The seat does not suck your dick. It performs fellatio upon you.
I'm a crass person, and it sounded like a crass experience for a crass movie.
It was. It's like if you wish that all movies could be Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, 4DX has risen to that challenge.
Yeah, it's like that Terminator movie where they face like the T-1 million. It's like a spider.
Oh, you're talking about Terminator 2 Battle Cross Time?
Correct. That's
which has been replaced by Shrek 4D. Because I recently went to Universal Studios 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And boy, Shrek 4D, not a great movie. Can I say this? Poorly written.
Shit, really?
Like, I walked out of it.
Tom Stopper did a pass.
Yeah, right. I walked out of it not being like, that's a shitty amusement park ride. I was like, that's a bad movie. Like, that's a poorly directed, acted, and written film.
We don't care.
It's also like
Griffin,
25 minutes
we're recording
long.
this episode late because Griffin was held over in Los Angeles because of his fancy job as a superhero in a TV show.
I was getting fitted for my superhero costume, and let me tell the audience, because I know they've been very invested in this. I can assure you, the current plan is for the costume to be 2 separate pieces, so I will be able to poop while wearing it. So not while wearing it, but easily get out of it and
Did you
poop.
talk to 3-time Academy Award winner Colleen Atwood about needing to poop?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Because she designed the costume, am I correct?
She did, correct.
And she has 3 Academy Awards from 11 nominations.
Yep.
Can you guess the 3 wins?
I know the 3
All
wins.
for not great jobs, in my opinion.
I think good work. Memoirs of a Geisha.
But not her best work.
Memoirs of a Geisha is 1. Number 2 is Alice in Wonderland.
Correct.
Number 3 is Chicago.
That's right. Which is really well-designed costumes.
Yes.
The other ones, it's like, I hate those movies.
She did...
She's done so many great movies. Oh, yeah. She's worked with Burton a million times.
Silence of the Lambs.
Correct.
Yeah.
She was a big Demi person at the beginning.
Yeah, Mars Attacks, Gattaca.
She designed the fucking Martian Spy Girl, which
Planet
is one of my
of the
favorite
Apes.
looking characters of all time.
Yeah, Mars Attacks, great design. Anyway,
Let me say this.
Sweeney Todd.
Also, like, one of the most badass human beings I've ever met.
Oh, yeah?
She's like a suffer no fools, mince no words.
Makes sense.
Like, awesome lady.
Costume designers, man.
Yeah, so she's making a superhero suit to fit my stupid body.
Yeah. And a stupid body it is.
It's really dumb. For you listeners at home, I cannot oversell how dumb my body is.
Isn't it great that there might be new listeners to this episode, by the way? Like,
Yeah.
who'd be like, let's jump in at the Wachowski casters or whatever.
Yeah, and then you're hearing me talk about being able to poop in a superhero costume. I did not say anything to her. We were like...
You were silent.
Fitting stuff. I was totally silent the whole time. We were like fitting stuff, and then she was like throwing ideas, and she was like, "What do you think if we like split this in two so it was like a jacket and a bottom part with a belt in between?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Yeah, no, I think that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
So she presented it, and I heartily agreed.
So you're not in a jumpsuit, is what you're saying, basically. You're not in like a one piece. Yeah.
No, it's a little closer to the current Flash costume on the CW, where it looks sort of like
Great
two
show.
pieces, but it's kind of continuous.
Yeah. You know, the Flash poops a lot.
Good costume. I like it. Was very hard for me not to cry when I saw myself in it.
Very exciting, guys.
Can't wait for you folks to see it. But anyway, back to this. We saw it in 4DX.
Oh, yeah. No, okay. So let's just move on from this. But you guys saw the movie in 4DX. We chatted about that for a while on this Lost episode.
I think that section was
it might be worthy of release.
the one part of value. So Ben's going to go through, try to clean up the audio, but I think we're going to release it like a 15-minute bonus episode.
You guys might get a little chunk later in the week.
Yes.
Just for funsies.
Because that's the thing you
It's
want to
just
hear.
for funsies.
It's just for funsies.
So-
don't take it seriously.
Just stop taking us so fucking seriously and wait for the funsie episode. And if it doesn't come out, you know what? Tweet angrily at Ben Hosley.
Ever since we got rid up on Podmas, everyone takes us so seriously.
Do they?
So seriously.
Thanks for the Podmas write-up.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Rebecca.
I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Podcasting. Oh, geez.
The Wachowski
casters. Jesus Christ.
I like that this is flipped because, like, last season I had a hard time with our title.
Yeah.
And this season you're having a tough time.
I mean, I like it, though. I like the title.
Yeah. Bound.
Yeah, so
The year is 1996.
that's correct.
The Wachowskis.
The Wachowskis are a couple of, young writers in Hollywood.
Midwestern? Where are they from?
Like,
Chicago.
Yeah,
Chicago.
they're from Chicago.
Yeah.
They're Polish, like
Mhm.
many a Chicagoan. They probably ate a lot of kielbasa and, what do people do in Chicago?
Like Griffin Nooms over here is also Polish. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, are you? Yeah. I mean, I have some Polish descent. I mean, it's Jews.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's
think,
just,
I'm like 3/4 or something like that, maybe.
I'm mostly Lithuanian.
Ooh.
So, they are a couple of Chicagers, and they went, I think one of them went to Bard College, my brother's alma mater, and one of them went to Emerson College. So, nice kind of goofy liberal arts, arty schools. And then they
These guys are big thinkers, right?
They wrote comic books a little bit, I think. I think they worked at Marvel in their younger years.
I believe so, and I think they also very quickly
they
start like script doctoring, doing passes, punch up.
Ecto Kid. They wrote a lot of like Clive Barker. Remember Marvel had like weird little Clive Barker stuff? It was great.
Yeah. But I think they also were credited on Assassins, perhaps?
Well, this is the thing. They wrote a script for Assassins, which was a crappy 1994 action movie starring Sylvester Stallone and Antonio Banderas when he was still figuring out how to like speak English.
And Julianne Moore?
Yeah.
Weird
Yeah.
cast.
But Julianne Moore post like her 5 minutes in the Fugitive, like early Julianne Moore.
Right, but like one of our finest
Vanya
actresses.
on 42nd Street Julianne Moore. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Julianne Moore's still figuring it out. Anyway, not a good movie.
No, so did they write the original where
They wrote
it was
the
their
script.
spec script that then got butchered?
Warner
Was that
Brothers
their-
picked it up
Okay.
gave them like a 2-picture, 2-script deal or something as part of that pickup.
Yeah.
Then later director Brian Helgeland, Oscar winner Brian Helgeland, who wrote L.A. Confidential and directed a lot of movies. He like rewrote the script. He's credited too. Richard Donner made the movie. It sucked and was a huge bomb.
Yeah, people
It's
didn't
a bad
like it.
movie.
No, if
I've seen like 20 minutes of it on TV.
if I'm not mistaken, I believe they write The Matrix and present to Warner Brothers as one of the 2 films in that deal. And Warner Brothers, they have 2 notes. One of them is, by all accounts, this is the legend I've heard, is they return the script with a Post-it note saying, what is this? Can you explain this to us?
And we'll get to The Matrix.
Right?
But
by all accounts, they were like, I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. We just literally
had that script.
Don't understand the script. So the Wachowskis sat down, explained The Matrix, the look, understood, here's how it's going to make sense visually, all of this. And Warner said, okay, now we get it and we like it. We have no faith that you can pull off a movie of this size. You haven't directed a movie before.
Absolutely.
So they said, like, if you've made another film, we'd feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, a lot of this legend that I've also heard is from Joel Silver, who is the producer of The Matrix and is a legendary Hollywood fatso awesome man who wears Hawaiian shirts and has produced a million movies, half of them awful, half of them great.
Can I tell a really good quick sidebar story?
Sure.
My father would bring me to things sometimes.
Joel Silver is a parody of a Hollywood producer, and I love the man, and I think he's made a lot of fun movies, and he's always fun on camera in documentaries and DVD extras and stuff.
Yes.
But he's just kind of a hilarious, I told the go ahead.
My grandmother works at a film festival in France, right? An American film festival in France.
Oh boy.
They 1 year when I was 12 or 13. We're doing a tribute to Joel Silver.
Sure.
So there was this big Joel Silver thing. And my dad was like
48 Hours, Die Hard, all his classics.
Predator, The Matrix, The Hudsucker Proxy.
Hudson Hawk, okay.
Yeah. So my dad was like, do you want to come to this party? Because I was a big fan of a lot of Joel Silver movies, right?
Uh-huh.
And he's talking to someone who's like, I will not name him for the sake of, not.
Go ahead.
He was a higher up at Warner Brothers at the time. Which is where Joel Silver was situated. That's where his shingle was placed.
Silver Pictures.
Right. And my dad went up to him and said, hey, how are you doing? He went, hey, how are you? Da-da-da-da-da, this and that. And there was a woman standing close by, but none of us knew who the woman was, right?
Okay.
And the Warner Brothers, my dad said to the Warner Brothers guy,
come on.
Hey, this is my son Griffin. He's 12 and he hates Hollywood phonies. Which I don't know why Dad said that. My dad would always try to create a fucking context for me, right?
Whatever. It's a funny line.
And the Warner Brothers guy goes, well, you want to talk about phonies? This fat, disgusting fuck in the ice cream colored suit over there. And he points over to Joel Silver. And he goes, this is the grossest, phoniest, blowhardiest,
does he know it's Joel Silver?
100%. He's like a higher up at Warner Brothers
and
where
he's
Joel
just
Silver.
ragging on Joel Silver.
And he's like, I'm going to have fun saying this to this kid, right? And he's ragging on Joel Silver. And he's like, piece of shit phony in this entire business. And then the woman goes, hey, that's my brother.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
That's a good story, right?
Decent story.
Yeah, decent story.
Did he apologize?
He went, this is what my dad did. My dad went, of course he is, and we love him very much. Griff, I think it's getting late. We should head home. My dad immediately removed himself from that situation.
Get out of there.
Pistol Pete Newman does not like social discomfort.
Awkwardness.
Yep.
Anyway, so Joel Silver has often said, I think what you're about to say, which is Warner's was like, okay, this Matrix, I don't know, but we need something from you guys to prove that you can direct.
You're untested. This is a huge project.
And so Silver says they made Bound as like an audition piece, as like, here we are, this is a small budget movie, but look where we're putting the camera. Look at how we're turning a little into a lot, basically.
This was like a $1 or $2 million movie?
No, it was a little more. I think it was a $6 million movie.
Okay.
And so the Wachowskis, I read interviews where they've said that's a little over. We wanted to make Bound. Essentially, but
I'm sure they want to make Bound, and it fits into a nice mythology.
It's certainly interesting that they made a pretty small budget movie that basically takes place in 2 rooms. Yeah, there are 2 apartments.
Yeah, and was clearly shot 90% on sound stages.
Correct.
Yeah,
and then of course transitioned to the most definitive action epic sci-fi masterpiece of cinema that has not yet been equaled.
Yeah, I don't mean to imply that Bound was means to an end.
No,
I think it's a fully passionate film of theirs that they wanted to make, but I also think it was strategically even you look at how much style is in this film,
Absolutely.
And it's they want to show with limited resources what they can milk.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about, that The Matrix is something that hasn't sort of been met since then.
It hasn't.
I have often said that,
maybe Mad Max,
Yeah, but I know it's 99, but let's say 21st century. I think the 2 movies of the 21st century, love them or hate them, whatever you think, that came in with a completely
new aesthetic.
New aesthetic that hadn't been crystallized before, elements before, and sort of changed the game are The Matrix, and I would argue the second one's Napoleon Dynamite.
I'm not even going to begin to discuss.
I said love it or hate it. I don't.
Not going to begin to discuss.
But you know what I'm saying? Both
but
of those movies.
That's a whole other thing. That's indie. That's whatever.
But I say this to make a point where it's like you rarely get something where it's like, well, now the whole thing's changed, and now you're going to get 20 years of people
not getting
ripping
sucked into a conversation about Napoleon Dynamite.
I'm trying to refocus this on The Matrix.
Okay.
But I'm saying I think they had similar effects on their respective genres.
Okay.
And I think The Matrix, it's like everything exists in the shadow of The Matrix now to one degree or another. We live in a post-Matrix culture.
We do.
And if you're making like an action film, if you're making a sci-fi film, if you're making anything like that, you're either influenced by The Matrix or you're consciously choosing to not like copy The Matrix. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. But
let's
that's not
talk
the film
about The
we're
Matrix
talking about.
next week. Yes.
We're talking about. I'm just trying to set this.
No, I agree with you. And like they're bound to sort of bound to The Matrix. You know, in a weird. All right. But I mean, Bound comes out in '96.
David, 2 comedy points.
That is too many. And it comes out 3 years before The Matrix. Comes out in '96.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking about it with producer Ben before.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of has that great trashy 90s vibe that is so common to so many like 90s crime thrillers.
Yes.
Kind of the after effects of De Palma kind of like washing upon the like shore, all these like crappy De Palma knockoffs.
Like Barbette Schroeder's Kiss of Death.
You know, and then mixed in with the Tarantino, like we can just do pulpy noir movies again, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know, things to do in Denver when you're dead. Like all these like, you know, forgotten 90s crap.
Pretty much every David Caruso film. I said Kiss of Death, but also
Jade.
Sliver.
Is it called Sliver or Silver?
Yeah.
I always forget.
Yeah, I think it's Sliver, yeah.
How about True Romance?
Yeah, True Romance, you know, that's the Tarantino thing. But yeah, you know, exactly. Like, it's like, what's it about? A bunch of garbage people. What do? They fucking kill each other. Over what? Money.
Like, here's the thing.
Is there some sex? Yeah.
If you were flipping through the channels.
I think it's a smarter movie than the movies we're talking about, but it has that vibe.
Well, this is what I was going to say. If you're flipping through the channels, you know, like Cable 98, pre-DVR, so you can't get info on the title you're watching, right? You're flipping through. If you saw like 2 seconds of Bound, you'd be like, is this an episode of Red Shoe Diaries?
Yeah, because it has a slightly stilted quality of the dialogue. You know, it stars Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon, who are Gershon? Gina Gershon?
I always thought it was Gina Gershon. Yeah.
Who are not like, you know, renowned thespians otherwise. And they're good actors, both of them.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, like Gina Gershon's probably most famous for Showgirls.
Yes, a movie that is known for being like,
bad.
You know, right.
I mean,
right.
Showgirls is the apex of this kind of movie, right? Paul Verhoeven, I forgot to mention him, you know, like Basic Instinct, Showgirls, all the Joe Esteras
by the way, I would
movies.
love to fucking do a blank check because he's one of my favorite filmmakers
love
of all time.
Verhoeven. Great.
Yeah. But Showgirls is a film that was like notorious for how disastrous it was, and now has
it
sort
come
of
out
gotten
a year before Bound. I think it's 95. I think
And there's like a balance between people who like love it because they think it's terrible, and people who think it's brilliant, and other people don't get it.
Yeah,
but it's like, you know, let's get the second lead from a movie that just lost a tremendous amount of money.
And the reason they got her, I think, is because she's perfect for the role and perfect in the movie. So good.
Right. Same for Jennifer Tilly.
Jennifer Tilly coming off an Oscar nomination for Bullets Over Broadway.
For doing the one thing she can do. Let's say that. A well-deserved Oscar nomination.
I think Jennifer Tilly's great, but she's definitely, you know.
Yeah.
You know, she's like a sort of a breathy sex pot. Like, she's awesome, but she does like one thing really, 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 really well.
I'll say this about both Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly.
And she's an incredible poker player.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about Jennifer Tilly a little because her life is a little fascinating.
Jennifer Tilly had been around for years.
Yeah.
Just doing stuff.
She played a Gary
Meg
Shandling's
Tilly's
girlfriend
sister.
on It's Gary Shandling
show.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. She on that
she like pops up in things like, I don't know, like The Fabulous Baker Boys and The Doors and stuff. You know, like she'll just sort of like have little bit parts and stuff. And then she just
her sister Meg Tilly, an Academy Award nominee.
I was going to say Meg Tilly, but then she just gets an Academy Award nomination when she's hysterically funny in Bullets Over Broadway.
It's just like a perfectly cast, tailor-made role, right?
Absolutely.
But she on It's Gary Shandling show meets Sam Simon.
Oh, sure, the writer,
prodigious comedy writer producer.
Sam Simon.
R.I.P. Sam Simon, the youngest showrunner ever in network television history.
Okay.
They get married. They get divorced soon after. And post-divorce, he becomes one of the creators and executive producers on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
He leaves The Simpsons after season 2, I believe.
3 maybe, or after the early, you know,
But as executive producer and co-creator,
Yeah, he's
developer,
always there.
he retains residuals for all aspects of the show in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm.
And so a legend that I love is that Jennifer Tilly has never remarried because the second she remarries, she stops becoming entitled to spousal support.
Oh, I see, because they divorced,
Yes.
but it's like, right. But now Sam Simon is deceased, so I don't know. Jennifer Tilly's also like a World Series of Poker
That's
winner
the other thing we have
as
to
well.
talk
So,
about.
like, I
Jennifer
think
Tilly's like low-key
she's
one
living
of the
the great
best
life.
poker players in the world. Jennifer Tilly's like swimming in money. But I just always like the idea that like any man she ended up with was just like, just so you know, there's no possible world in which we get married. Because I'm on that Simpsons train.
Hey,
right now.
I don't know. I mean, look.
If you got it, flaunt it. Yeah. Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon, I think both fall into a category. They're like loaded gun actors for me, where it's like it's a lot of responsibility if you're going to put them in a movie. You got to know how to use them.
This is the thing. I don't want to diss either of them because they're
I'm not
both
dissing either of them.
fantastic. No, I know you're not.
Yeah.
But it's like if you look at Jennifer Tilly's like IMDb page, it's just like there are these nice little moments in it, like Bullets Over the Broadway. Bullets Over the Broadway.
Celia
Bound.
in Monsters, Inc.
she's
Celia,
very
the
funny in Monsters. I mean,
receptionist.
she's got one of the most like distinctive voices. In like you could still do a Jennifer Tilly impression and people would still get it, even though Jennifer Tilly is not like in a lot of movies these days.
You could do a Jennifer Tilly.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Thank
a
you.
little breathier, but it's pretty good.
Jennifer Tilly.
And then like she's in like Bride of Chucky, but she's also in 50 million other movies that you've never heard of.
Correct.
Love her. I mean, she's in Liar Liar, which I've seen a million times,
Yes.
and she's very funny.
Very funny in that. No, what I mean to say, I'm not dissing either actress, but I think they
Gina
both...
Gershon is like more of like a great classy stage actress
Yes.
who does like all this amazing stuff on Broadway and off Broadway.
Yeah.
And then also kind of like a queen of Hollywood trash for some reason.
Right. As a movie star, let's just say, right? The Gina Gershon, like, Hollywood persona as a character, in line with, like, the Jennifer Tilly persona, are both things where, like, I think they're incredibly strong actresses.
So good.
When well used. But in the hands of bad directors, they can both be catastrophic.
Yeah, because the bad directors, or will just be like, yeah, you'll just play like the other woman, or you'll play like some sort of like tempting lady, or like some kind of mean Hollywood lady or something.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, she's in what she's in. Like, I'm looking at her now. She's in like Red Heat and Cocktail. She's in The Player. Those are like her early roles. And then after, again, it's like after that nice year with Bound, it's like, what's she, like the 14th lead in Face Off? What is she in Face Off?
Oh, she is Nicolas Cage's baby mama in that film.
Right.
Who John Travolta as Cage, like, teams up with.
She's like pops up in good movies like The Insider, but she's not like a major part of them.
I'm sorry, I just need to correct my previous statement. Do you know who Gina Gershon is in Face Off?
Sure.
She's the person to whom Nicolas Cage says, I'm going to take his face off.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That immortal line is delivered to Gina Gershon.
With the hand motion.
Face. Yeah, for the listener at home, we're doing the motion.
But, I mean, again, she's like a Tony-nominated actress, though. I love Gina Gershon.
I do too. But yeah,
great.
people can misuse her. It's a loaded gun. It's like...
We've really gone down a long road with these two actors.
I think it's important to state because it's like if you're walking through a video store in 1997 and you see a box and it's like, oh, here's an erotic thriller starring Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon. You go, ooh, that sounds dangerous.
It sounds...
That's risky.
That's a good call. I mean, in England it's rated 18.
Yeah.
Which is in England the highest rating. Things aren't rated R. They're rated like 15 or 18.
Yeah.
Most movies are rated 15. You have to be extremely violent or extremely explicitly sexual to get an 18.
It's got a bit of both.
And it's got a little bit of both. And 18 is like a red circle with an 18 in it.
Yeah.
So it really kind of has like a slightly scarlet lettery, like this is a, intense bad movie. And so when you see it on the VHS shelf, you're like, ooh.
Yeah,
okay, all right.
This looks gamey.
I mean, and like the tagline on the poster is "Sex and Crime Forever." That's the tagline.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of a tagline that's supposed to be.
And the poster is like them tied together.
Yeah.
In like this very sort of suggestive S&M way, where in the movie, the titular moment where they're bound is very much like a terrifying, upsetting thing. Like, it's not like ooh, we're binding each other.
So let's move on from perception and move into the actual movie, which is great.
This movie's fucking great.
So good.
This movie is so strong. It's like an insane debut film.
Yeah.
I tried to watch this. I'd never seen this film before.
I thought I had, but
Yeah, I thought I had too. I think I'd only seen certain scenes.
Weirdly, I had not. As much as, like, I'm sure, obviously it has, like, a couple of really just one sex scene that's kind of, like...
Yeah, it's got one,
But it's, like, when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is, like, a nicely done... It's not, like, a particularly, like, over-the-top, like, ooh,
I agree.
like...
Yes, when I was,
what's the
like...
word I'm looking for? Like,
salacious.
Cheesy. Yeah, sex scene.
When I was, like, 14 or 15, I was like, ooh, this scene sounds great. Like, looked it up, found it, probably downloaded off Kazaa or whatever it was, It wasn't hosted in any sites or whatever. And then watched it, and I was like, this is disappointing. And
I
then
want to acknowledge, by the way, it is outrageous and offensive that the two of us, two boring straight guys who suck, are talking about this fucking landmark movie.
I know.
It sucks. It sucks.
I know. Like
and
an
it's
important cornerstone of
I'd
queer
rather
cinema.
have a guest on this episode, but our timing has been terrible. We
Terrible.
haven't found, it's just terrible.
Terrible.
Whatever.
So
I really apologize.
Yeah, that's another piece of housekeeping here, just like table setting. Because my schedule's a little crazy right now, this might be a guest light season.
That's fine. We're great. It's
we just want you to know.
But
We
this
just want you to
episode,
know.
I'm just particularly upset.
I know.
that
We're a bunch of jamokes, and we shouldn't be
suck.
fucking talking about this.
Anyway.
But we love it.
Yeah, no, it's a great movie.
What I was going to say was I watched the scene when I was 15. I was like, what's the big whoop? And then I watched the scene in the context of this movie, and I was like, that's a great piece of cinema.
Oh, it's awesome.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, as masturbatory material.
Oh, boy.
Like most
masturbatory? That's not how you pronounce that made-up word.
Like most great art, if you're looking to masturbate, you'll be disappointed. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
The best art should not be masturbated to.
Glide past this as quickly as we can.
Masturbatory.
No, but I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, it's actually a well-done scene. It's
a
not
great fucking
porn scene.
It's not a
Like,
scene
it is
meant
not
for a
designed
15-year-old to
simple
download off
arousal or
Kazaa.
whatever.
Yeah,
Sure,
right. It's a real piece of cinema.
Yeah, the Wachowskis worked with I need to look her up, a sex educator called Susie Bright, who's like a legend in the, sex education industry. She's like a feminist writer, like she, and they were like big fans of hers, and they wanted to like get the scenes right. I don't know how, I mean, I think both Tilly and Gershon are straight actresses. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Sam Simon, but
it looks sliding scale. I mean, we all exist in shades of gray, David.
I think the Wachowskis were pretty intent on not making a gross, porny, lesbian thriller that was just about boobs, and like they wanted to get the sex scenes right. There's lots of focus on hands.
Yes.
There's Susie Bright has talked about like that this is a wet movie rather than a hard movie, like if that makes sense. Like
that makes sense.
It's not like this like aggressive male sort of like sex thriller, and it works.
I'll say this: it's
and like the bar scene where Gina Gershon goes to the gay bar, like that is all Susie Bright's buddies, including Susie Bright, like all the customers, all the patrons who Gina Gershon is
Susie
trying to hook
Bright
up
is
with.
the one because I looked at IMDb. I believe Susie Bright's the one that she hits on.
Yes,
yeah.
That's right.
I will say this. I do think this is maybe the most erotic film I've ever seen.
Boy.
But it's like intellectually erotic.
It's a great movie.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, we're watching two pretty ladies kiss. I'm human. Gets a rise out of me, whatever,
Ben, you have anything to say about this?
I mean,
I just wanted to cut that off.
Gina Gershon, I got to tell you, as a 90s kid,
Mm-hmm.
I had a major 90s boner. Telling you right now.
Well, because like in Showgirls, which
is such a gross episode.
I really want to move past
We're
this.
handling
this
this
is a great
so
episode.
incorrectly.
Yeah, it's crappy. Yeah, I'm not into it.
No.
Yeah.
No. What I mean to say is, I found this film almost unbearably erotic because of David.
Oh my God.
David.
Yeah.
The way the Wachowskis film it, edit it, and sort of create the tension and the chemistry between the two of them. It's not a very graphic movie.
And thus we will move on.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this film like builds up like a fucking like a hot kettle. You know, it's like steaming up.
Well, the thing about this movie is I think if you went into it, you would think like, oh, like these two are going to get together at the end, and it's going to be like this sort of big like climactic thing where like their romance kind of finally like comes into the forefront of the movie.
It's like minute 20.
Yeah, it's basically the movie is like Gina Gershon. She's out of jail. She's playing
Her character's name is Corky.
Yeah,
which is really fun.
A workaday jobber called Corky, an ex-con.
Yeah. Fresh out, she's
working for a mafioso.
Sort of doing maintenance in the building.
Yeah, and she's basically cleaning up some apartment, like that's now empty.
Right.
And next door lives a sort of like, a capo, some mafia guy. Named Caesar, played by the wonderful Joe Pantoliano. How do you say it? That's how you say him.
Yeah, I think so.
Pantoliano, he's the best.
Joey Pants.
Joey Pants, the legendary Joey Pants, who would be in The Matrix later, and obviously he's in The Sopranos, he's in The Fugitive, he's in the zillion fucking
I would argue.
Risky Business. Yeah.
He's great in Midnight Run.
He's great in Midnight Run. Yeah, I mean, he's always been a classic, like, angry little Italian guy.
Yeah.
He's in Memento. He's wonderful in Memento.
Yes.
Oh, he's so good in that. I forgot about that.
But this is like kind of like a perfect vehicle for him. Like they just like perfectly harnessed everything that's incredible about him.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this film.
And they gave him a lot. I mean, he is not a supporting character. He is almost the third
build,
lead. Yes.
And I'd argue he's almost an equal lead of the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always interesting because it also hands off spotlight.
Right.
Yeah.
Corky's kind of the main character of the first 30 minutes. And then Jennifer Tilly's character, Violet, is kind of the main character in the middle where they're sort of hatching this plot.
Yes.
And then Caesar's kind of the big character at the end.
I would agree. The third act, I think, is really his spotlight.
It's a pretty tight. No, it's not. I was going to say it's like an hour 40. It's like an hour 50.
Yeah,
it's pretty long, actually. But anyway, so Corky's next door in this empty apartment. She meets her neighbors, who are Caesar, this mob guy, and Violet, who's like who's basically like a gangster's mole. Like, she's like sort of dressed to the nines at all times, and she's very obviously like they've been together for years, but she sort of serves this like arm candy function.
Yes. She's like a gangster's mall.
There's this great scene early. Well, no, go ahead.
No, what were you going to say? I was going to set up something further. Yeah.
Well, there's this great scene early on. Well, I mean, basically, Corky, who is like obviously like an openly gay woman, like pretty early on hooks up with Violet. And then I love this scene where Caesar comes home.
Yeah.
And they're they're just in the apartment. And he reacts to Corky, who he thinks is a man because it's like dark and
wife beater, short hair from behind,
right? And he's like, "Hey, what the fuck?" And it's like, there's just this weird like it's all there that like Caesar's like, "You are my property, and you are not allowed to be with any men, like clothed, not clothed in this apartment." No.
Then she turns around, he sees it's a woman, and he goes like, "Oh God!"
Oh, and he's like, "Forget it." Oh,
never mind.
And it's a great scene to just set up like, this is an antiquated person.
Yeah.
Like the idea that Violet would be gay or anything like that never even enter his brain.
Yeah.
But it's just like, if you were in here with another man, like you are dead meat, even if we've been together for years, like it doesn't matter.
There's a lot of really sharp economical storytelling in this movie. And it's also like, it's one of these thrillers that's just like tight as a drum. Like it runs like a clock, And
especially since it's really, there's one scene where Corky goes into this gay bar, as we said.
Yeah.
That I think is really just there for kind of color and like just a little bit of characterization.
Well, that's also the first time we find out that's not the first time we find out. But there's that great scene where she goes in, she goes up to the woman, she starts hitting on her. The other woman comes up.
She's an ex-con.
Exactly. That's where you find out there. Right. I was trying to remember if that was the first time we find out.
It might be, but
the way they show that is, she's hitting on one woman. Another woman comes over and goes like, "Oh, Corky, huh?
Yeah,
what do you do? I didn't know you were out so soon." And then flashes her badge, and Corky's immediately like, "Okay, but if you get tired of Cagney and Lacey, come find me."
Yes.
So you get a sense of her character, her attitude, her sexuality, the way she interacts with other people. This is a woman who doesn't fuck around,
right?
And she's an ex-con.
Right, and she's
not flustered. She
says she comes to the bar and she's like, "I'm looking to get laid," because it's been a while, clearly. And but what I was going to say is, apart from that scene, mostly this takes place in these two apartments.
Correct.
In this empty apartment Corky's working on.
Yeah.
And this kind of lavish mobster apartment that's next door.
Yeah.
And the walls are thin we keep.
Oh, well, that's the thing I wanted to set up.
That's like a crucial thing
which I
to this movie.
love in this movie.
Now, this movie is shot by Bill Pope.
The great Bill Pope.
Who is a great cinematographer who's like the master of like in-camera effects. He like shot The Matrix. He shot Spider-Man, the Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 2, I think.
I think he shot all three of the Raimi ones because he's a Raimi guy. He did Army of Darkness. He did Darkman.
He shot Scott Pilgrim versus the World. He's the fucking best. And he's one of the most underrated cinematographers alive. He's never been nominated for an Oscar, which drives me crazy.
He shot Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah.
I believe he shot the pilot, so he like set the look for it. Right. The other thing he shot, I think one of the most underrated cinematography jobs of the last 40 years.
Shoot.
He shot Team America.
Oh, yeah, right.
Which is
another
this crazy challenge, which is like make
a movie I can't stand. But
I love that movie.
I hate that movie.
He like made it genuinely look like a Michael Bay film.
Yeah,
at, like,
no, I agree with you.
1/15
The look
scale.
is perfect.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But he's got all these sort of camera passes. I mean, like you say, it's obviously a soundstage where he'll like sort of jump from one apartment to the other in these seamless moves, like over the wall, basically.
Over the wall
just
shot.
to give you an idea of like how tenuous the wall is and like how obvious the you can hear one through the other.
That's another thing. I gotta say, when I like keep on harping about how erotic this movie is, half of it is that but half of it is
rolling my eyes.
I have such a hard on at the fucking like mise en scène in this film. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the fucking craft in this film.
Like we're saying, it's the Wachowskis kind of showing off, consciously or not, and saying like, look what we did with a little money.
Yeah.
Imagine what we could do with a lot of money.
Yeah, it's these two parallel rooms. The wall's really thin. They set that up early, which feels like a very Hitchcocky device. This whole movie feels very Hitchcocky to me. And that it's like...
Yeah, I think they have said Billy Wilder, like the noir-y Billy Wilder movies like Double Indemnity, I think are a big influence.
But there's that element of like...
Where it's like everyone's kind of a gangster.
Yeah.
And so that kind of forgives any obvious... Like, because like Jennifer Tilly, Violet just is like, I want to have sex with you. And Gina Gershon's like, okay. Even though it's like, dude... Maybe a bad call.
Yeah.
Mobster's girlfriend next door. Like, maybe you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But you're just like, well, this is what's happening because this is about, like, kind of, edgy people.
But I also think that scene at the gay bar sets up that she's a lady who flirts with danger. Literally.
Yes. Fair enough. That's true. That's
you
true.
know? I think that's why that scene's important. I think that, God, this movie's so good. The thin wall thing, it sets up like a language going forward in the film. So anytime any conversation's happening on one side of the wall, there's this immediate tension of like, can it be heard on the other side? They use that fear, that like unknown of like what's happening on the other side of the wall a lot in the film, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they call it out and they use it. Sometimes it's a thing in the back of your mind. There are these two phones that they use to communicate with each other that are like right on the opposite sides of the wall. There's a great fucking scene where they track from the phone cord on one side of the wall through the wall to the... Oh, God, good movie. Okay, so...
But I was just about Bill Pope, just to finish. This is a little anecdote. They had another DP, I don't know who.
Interesting.
And the DP said, this is a $6 million movie. I can't do the camera moves you want with this budget. And so he quit. And Bill Pope was like, nah, I can do it. Like Bill Pope worked within a very small budget to achieve some fairly ambitious stuff.
But I think that's like the Raimi school, Raimi
absolutely.
is like a guy who does like crazy camera moves. Like he has a very expressive camera, and until Spider-Man, he was doing it on a very limited budget.
Yeah.
And mind you, like Spider-Man...
Well, and The Matrix. The Matrix is 99.
Yes, right, I forgot, yes. But Spider-Man was a movie that like he had a big budget, and what'd he do? He like had this crazy, inventive, like innovative idea, which was like, what if we get a helicopter and a wire, and we attach the camera to the bottom of the wire on the helicopter.
Right, and that'll get that sort of swinging...
And film the plates from that, and then CGI Spider-Man into it, which is, like, still the best depiction of Spider-Man in motion in any of the films.
It's very true.
Like, just those sequences are so perfectly realized. Anyhow. Back to Bound.
Bound's great movie, and so the plot is... I'll just recap the plot real quick.
Sure.
You've got these two women, and they meet, and they hook up real fast, and maybe they're not in love with each other exactly. Like, it's not like they're just professing, like, oh, you're the greatest woman I've ever met.
There's a real energy
But there's
there.
a strong connection that is, like, very apparent and very well played by both Tilly and Gershon.
Gina Gershon, in fact, very early on in the film.
She's good in this movie.
Yes. Very early on in the film says, like, we're very different people.
Right.
You know, like she sort of implies that Jennifer Tilly is like looking for an experience.
Well, and there's also this judgment that I love where Gina Gershon, like she can hear Jennifer Tilly having sex through the walls with multiple partners, I believe. Right?
Yes.
I think there's the implication there.
Different men of this sort of crime family.
And she's like kind of like, what am I going to... Yeah. And Jennifer Tilly pretty like dresses her down and says like, I'm not judging you. You don't judge me. That's my job. Like,
She says,
I've fallen into this situation and it's the situation I have, but like...
It's work. We both have done in our lives what we need to do to survive. Right. Like you ended up in jail, and this is my jail. It's like being stuck in this apartment with these shitty men.
Right.
But that's the thing. This beautiful thing in the film is very early on. Gershon is like attracted to her, but is like, we're fundamentally different people. And the movie is them starting to realize how similar they are, which is that line I mangled at the beginning of the episode. Was like this idea of them becoming like one.
Yeah, bound.
Yeah, bound together.
But anyway, so she, Tilly works with this mobster, lives with this mobster,
right?
And he has a bag of money.
Yeah,
he has a bag of money that's covered in blood,
All movies should just have a bag
of money.
Bag of
it's
money.
$2 million bucks in a paper bag.
Yeah.
It's covered in blood because a sort of more wacko mobster who's a little like, off the rails, played by young Christopher Maloney.
The great Chris Maloney.
One of his earliest roles.
One of our finest actors.
He shot someone in vicinity to this bag of money, and so the bag of money is covered in blood. So Caesar, the mobster, has to literally launder the money and make it clean again.
But in like a perfect encapsulation of how this film is no detail is unimportant.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything serves a larger purpose. That becomes this point of animosity between the two of them, where it's like, you made me have to clean this money,
right?
Because you got overzealous, and attacking
you shot
this
a guy. Yeah, right.
Right, and then it's like Joey Pants punches Maloney to get as punishment for the thing.
Yes.
So there's this tension between the two of them.
He's pissed off already.
Right. So Tilly knows
Tilly
about the money.
notices this. Yes.
Sees the tension and is like, "There's room to
and
play."
And goes to Gershon and says, "We can exploit this. We can basically, you can take the money.
Yeah.
And I can imply to Caesar that Chris Maloney took the money.
Right.
While we were out, and then that will be enough. He'll realize that he's in trouble, and he'll get out of town."
Chris Maloney's dad is like
the chief,
the godfather,
the mobster,
right?
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
And the idea is that if the money's missing,
he'll know Maloney took it, or if he
Pants
thinks Maloney
will know that Maloney took it. But Pants will also know that they'll think that
he can't win, right?
Right. So he's like, all he can do is go on the run, and then
that's their plan.
Run away with the money and become happy people together.
So
living their own free life for the first time, not having to make these concessions and
so
play
it's
the game.
Fairly simple plan. The plan is essentially we steal the money, and then we leave together. When you're watching the movie, you're like, well, this is riddled with problems. This plan.
It's an overly simple plan.
But nonetheless, what works about the movie is there's not this is not some Ocean's 11 shit.
No.
Corky's going to take the money.
Yeah.
Violet's going to make Joey Pants think that another guy stole it.
Yeah.
And they're hoping that he's going to take the hint and just get out of Dodge, and then they can escape scot-free with the assumption that the money just, vanished into thin air.
Right. They'll spend their time looking for Pants rather than looking for them.
Joey Pants thinks Maloney took it. The mobsters will think Joey Pants took it. And it's sort of like
no one will look to them.
It's when you go to one friend's house says that you're at the other friend's house.
Yeah.
It's like the old teenage switcheroo.
And the plan is so simple that the crux of it, the fulcrum of their plan, revolves around a bottle of whiskey.
Yes, around Tilly dropping a bottle of whiskey.
What if
I
break a bottle of whiskey, go out buy a new one, and then pretend that I saw the guy outside, which will freak Pants out.
And much like so much of this movie, which is bound up in identity, Tilly, Violet is playing on this thing of she knows that Caesar's going to need a particular bottle of whiskey to impress this particular mobster who's going to come over and collect this money that's freshly laundered. Everything needs to be right. Everything needs to be perfect. The money needs to be ironed. There's this great image where they're hanging every $100 bill over these clotheslines all over the apartment.
Yeah.
So good.
Good movie.
And and as long as Tilly maintains this image of oh, I'm just your ditzy girlfriend who dropped a bottle of whiskey and then they can carry this off.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Agreed.
And then of course it falls apart.
Everything goes to shit, but it also goes to shit pretty early on.
That's what's fun. The whole thing happens in the middle of the movie.
Right. So at minute 40, they're plans in place, here we go. And by minute 50, everything's fucked up.
Yeah.
And so the next hour of the movie is how do they get out of this as this just becomes worse and worse and worse and worse. And their plan was also very much based around their sense of human intuition. This is how we believe people are going to behave.
Right.
And they misjudge everyone, So it's I guarantee you, he's going to do this, she'll do this, he'll do this.
Yeah, it's a lot of guessing at human motivations.
Right. And
what
then
happens?
Everything goes wrong. Everything gets
Maloney shows up with his godfather of a dad.
Right.
And Joey Pants kind of snaps, thinking that he's stolen the money.
Right. Which they didn't think he'd do in front of the dad.
Right.
They thought that he would just take the bullet or run.
He calls them on it.
Yeah.
And in a fit of rage, he kills Maloney. He shoots him dead.
And his father.
And then he shoots his dad dead.
Who's the El Chefe.
Who's played by... I can't remember the actor's name. Peter Spellos?
Yes, and then also a henchman. He kills 3 big, important people.
And that, sends the whole thing off the rails, because now he's okay, how do I do this? Like, he's basically like, how do I survive this? Like, is there a way for me to like get this money back somehow?
And at this point, the movie almost takes place in real time.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say the next 45 minutes maybe take place in an hour.
And the crazy thing is, like,
Yeah.
it's Joey Pants and Tilly. Gina Gershon, we cut to her quietly
on the other side
side of the wall. She hides the money in a can of paint, which is brilliant.
2 cans of paint.
2 cans of paint, in plastic bags.
Yeah.
And she doesn't do anything. She's always connected to the action, but she's not actually involved.
Yeah. But there's this passing of the baton. Like, Gershon's the main character at the beginning of the film, that when the plan starts to come into place, Tilly, it's like she's the one who's like, we should do this, and it becomes her film. And then when things go off the rails, it becomes Pants' film, because it becomes this horror movie of these 2 women being like, is there any way we can make this right again?
Right.
You know? And also now because he snapped, it's like he could kill us. Like, all bets are off, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he's also becoming increasingly desperate and manic.
Right.
Which is like a great mode for Joey Pants to be in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a treat for us to watch.
Yeah.
I'll say this. You see a lot of Joey Pants' body in this movie.
Yeah. There's a whole scene where he's in a towel.
Yeah, but he's like holding the towel just in front of his dick. It's like you see
there's that
all
scene.
other parts.
But then there's a subsequent scene where he, like a 10-minute like tension.
If not longer, yeah.
Where he's showing, like having a showdown with another mobster where he's just wrapped in a towel the whole time.
But there is one scene where he is holding a towel in a way I've never seen someone hold a towel before in my life, which is just like lightly in front of his wiener.
I've done that.
But you see like the sides of his hips, like you see like everything else. He's just like draping it. Yeah.
I love Joey Pants.
Great actor.
Did you know that he wrote, he founded a nonprofit organization called No Kidding, Me Too? Did you know that?
No.
About people in the entertainment industry who have suffered from clinical depression.
Oh.
And the idea is like when you say like, well, actually, I've suffered from depression in my life. And like when you say that to someone, the other person goes, no kidding, me too.
Oh.
Anyway, I love Joey Pants.
I do too. I think it was my buddy Jesse Knight, who is a film writer, Jesse Ryan Knight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. I keep kicking you.
It's fine.
God.
Don't worry about it.
I'm very, fidgety.
You're antsy today.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm not misattributing this to the wrong person. I believe my buddy Jesse Ryan Knight, who's a great guy and a good film writer, a great film writer. I made it sound like he was.
What about him?
He tweeted, "I can't believe it's been 10 years since Joey Pants wasn't even nominated for Bound."
He must have tweeted this 10 years ago. You mean 20 years?
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know.
He should have been nominated because he's great.
It's a great performance. And it's like a full meal. Like it's like a guy getting a chance to really dig in a way I don't think he'd gotten the chance before.
I mean, but it's also a great like portrait of like at the beginning of the movie, he's a big shot, he's well dressed, he's got this nice apartment, he's got this nice girl, and like of like his masculinity, his whole image just being eaten away from the inside by like forces he doesn't even understand.
Yeah, it's like fragile masculinity at its most fragile.
His biggest flaw in this movie is that he cannot conceive of the idea that Violet would be working with Corky.
Right.
You know, that they would have a connection.
Yeah.
That they would be in love or anything like that. I mean, he eventually figures it out, but it takes him, I don't know, an hour and 25 minutes. Like, it takes him most of the movie to figure it out.
Yeah, because he's so arrogant that he can't fathom the idea that Jennifer Tilly would want anything other than to be with him forever.
Yes.
You know?
Even though, like, what the fuck does he offer her? Like, Jesus.
Well, there's that great line where he says, like, you know, what does she offer you? She gives me everything. I'm going to fucking misquote it. But there's a part where it's like, what does she give you that I can't? And Jennifer Tilly, I think, says everything. It's like something like that.
It's great.
It's a great movie.
I mean, like, let's not spoil the ending in detail. I mean, maybe we should. I mean, I don't know. It's like there's this whole subsequent, as we said, like third act where Joey Pants is trying to hold it all together. He's trying to act like the mobsters never showed at his apartment when they're actually like in the bathroom. The bodies are like being kept in the bathroom under the sink.
Yeah.
Like cops show up and they kind of get around the cops because the cops heard like gunfire. That's a great scene.
This is like such a Hitchcocky sequence where they like
so Hitchcocky.
The cops come in.
Oh, and Joey Pants pretends that he's hard of hearing and he has like a gangster movie on the TV and that's
loudly.
What the gunshots were.
Right.
It's great.
He's got a gun tucked into the back of his pants the whole time, so you don't want him to turn around the whole time.
It's so weird that the Wachowskis never made another movie like this. That is like so like hinges on those little tense little like setups.
That's so small and focused, and like it's one of these movies where you have to lean in and like pay attention to every detail because it's like everything shifts the entire standing of the characters. Like any sound. Oh God, the fucking sound in this movie is unbelievable. But they come in and Joey Pants is like, you want a beer or something? And they're like, no, but I could use the bathroom. Oh no!
And Pants is like, oh. Okay,
but that's where the body is.
But he he knows he can't break character.
Right,
guys, great movie.
Dead
you really
bodies
should check it out.
In the bathtub, so the guy goes in the bathroom and you see blood dripping from the curtain, and it's like, is he gonna notice? And then the cop's looking around and he's like, "Real nice apartment you got here." Right. And Joey Pants has just moved all the furniture to cover up all the shit.
Right.
And you're like, is he gonna notice? And he's like, "Nice place, nice place." He steps on a rug, and the rug goes like,
yeah.
And he put the rug over like this immense pool of blood.
Yeah.
So you see blood seeping out of the rug and getting on the guy's shoe, and you're like, is he going to notice? Is he going to notice? And so in these great movies where you're like, in a dumber movie, that would be like the hinge, and that would become a plot point, and he has to shoot the cops. But this movie is like so much about like things going wrong that you can't predict, that also like things go right. The cops never notice that he's got like blood on his shoe.
Right, and then these mobsters show up.
Yeah.
These like other mobsters, right? The sort of major mob characters played by John Ryan. They show up being like, "Oh, well, where's the boss? Like, you never got the money, you know." And they have that dialogue where it's like, "Hey, moved all the furniture around," and like Joey Pants is like, "Yeah, Jennifer Till, Violet
wants to impress everybody."
Yeah, and they're like, "Huh, ladies, am I right?" Like again, they cannot conceive of the idea that the women around them would have any independent sort of thought or action.
Are smarter than them.
Yeah.
That's
would ever be. It's just like, oh yeah, of course she moved the furniture around because she's a dumb broad. Yeah. It's like the best.
It's very much a fragile masculinity movie, and I also think, okay, so here's something. Once again, as like a shitty, stupid piece of garbage.
You're going to talk about eroticism again?
No, but I mean, I'm going to try to talk about this in the correct way, right?
Jesus Christ!
Because I think this is an important thing. I'm probably going to fuck this up, right? There are a lot of I've read a lot of really good pieces about like the male gaze in cinema. And how like most male directors, if they sexualize a woman, it's sort of very objectifying.
Sure.
And this movie, watching it, maybe it's through the prism of knowing everything we know now.
It is.
But I look at it, it's a movie that's very obsessed with their bodies.
Yeah, I guess
and not in a titillating way, I mean, there's not very much nudity. It's this one shot, essentially.
Well, the sex scene that I think that everyone talks about from this movie is this very cool, camera move that sort of goes, down one side of the bed and loops around it. It's really well done.
Yes.
It's not the classic, pan down of, a person's naked body thing that's sort of like...
When I say the movie's obsessed
classic,
with their body...
Red Shoe Diaries whatever.
When I say the movie's obsessed with their bodies, I don't mean that, the movie's obsessed with their tits. I mean, the movie's obsessed with their, existence. Them being human females. And there's even, the first time they kiss, maybe my favorite shot in the entire film, is, their two lips essentially in shadow. You just pretty much see their two lips in super close-up, getting closer and closer to each other talking. And I feel like the film, at points, fragments, oh, God, look at their hands, look at their feet. Look at all
there's
these
a lot of focus on the hands.
Right.
Yeah.
But and once again, I'm speaking as a shitty white guy, so write in if I'm wrong.
Straight guy. You're a straight guy.
Right. But
straight guy.
Yeah, the straight is more important than the white
guy. Apparently, you downloaded a scene from this movie from Kazaa.
Yeah, I was a piece of garbage.
No,
right.
Whatever. You're a teenager.
I was a teenager. But I look at this film, and from my perspective, where I'm speaking from no point of knowledge or intelligence from this place, I can't speak for other people. I feel like this film doesn't really have that same sort of male gaze. I look at this movie and I think it shoots its characters very differently.
Yeah, totally.
And I think it is because, for reasons that are now a lot more obvious, not to psychoanalyze this thing too deeply, this is a film made by two filmmakers who have this immense fascination and respect for the female body.
Yeah.
Not as something to covet, but as something of this is
Griffin made the point.
I think
you did an okay job.
I did an okay job.
And let's move on.
Get out of here before it becomes problematic.
I'd like to add to this in the sense that I kind of saw this movie from a millennial kind of perspective. So we left off talking about how the mobsters show up, right? The second batch of mobsters.
The John Ryan mobster, yeah.
I guess I couldn't help but just think, like, situationally with this whole film, like, if there were cell phones, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they'd be fun.
And it was, like, almost refreshing, again, like, to remember those days. It's interesting with, like, modern movies now. We're going to have to deal with the fact that everyone can be in touch with everybody at all times.
There's a plot hinge in this movie that is the phone being off the hook.
Right.
Yes.
Which is something that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that is correct.
And the equivalent is I was on silent. Like, they fucking care. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's weird to think that way, but it's
also,
actually a thing now. It's like
it's also interesting because The Matrix is literally all about cell phones.
Yeah,
and it was like
totally.
the first movie to be about like where the cell phone is this like powerful prop.
But there's also, I mean, the
remember,
opening.
like owning the Matrix phone was like an early thing. Like when kids started getting cell phones, you get that slide.
Matrix phone or whatever it was. Yeah. But the opening of The Matrix is Trinity using a payphone rather than a cell phone. I mean, it's phone based.
We're talking about Bound.
Great movie. No, but
We'll get to The Matrix.
You just, I do agree with you, Ben. That like
Ben.
I agree with Ben.
I'm joking. Go ahead.
Benjamin.
No, don't do
Ben
the whole
Hosley.
thing. Don't do the whole thing.
He's
No,
not
I was
gonna
just
do
going to say your name. Benjamin.
Yes, sir.
I agree with you that, like, I see movies like this, and I get depressed thinking about how much advancements in technology have made plot lines, like, unnecessarily simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because now anyone can do anything at any time, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also things where you're like, a phone being off the hook, that's so visual.
Well, and the image of Corky in the empty apartment with just the phone on the floor is great, and like she's basically just waiting for like it's all to be over, like in the apartment. It's great.
But there's like 10 minutes of the movie where in the background of all the shots, they're in the bedroom. You see the phone being off the hook. They're not calling attention to it, but it's there as a visual element. So when they call it out later, you're like, right, of course, I noticed that. Whereas the equivalent today would be like you'd have to do a close up of a screen. And then the little bell with the line through
I agree.
it.
Or like, does anyone have a charger? Oh,
Yeah,
no, my
right.
phone's dead.
Like, it's so much, like, more inelegant, you know?
Well, yes, I agree with you guys, but hey, man, this movie was made in 1996.
I know, that's the best part. Okay, so here's what I'm going to throw out. I think all movies should be set in 1996.
Anyway.
That was the last good year.
Anyway, let's just wrap up the plot of this movie.
Okay.
It all comes apart. Caesar eventually figures it out,
Yep.
like that Corky is involved. He figures it out via the phone ringing in her apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And he ties her up and like throws her in a closet.
Hey, there's some fucking great fighting, though, too.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that.
Yeah, like, I mean, Gina Gershon gets a couple real, like, cold cocks in to Joey
She's
Pants.
fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
She's cool.
like the greatest. in
She's
this movie.
cool.
She just never lets her kind of like mask drop, like her sort of impassive, persona,
Yes.
even when she's being genuine. And you get when she's being genuine, but she
Yeah.
just always perfectly in character. I love her in this movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So but then he has to make a deal with Violet to kind of play along because he's trying to fool these other mobsters. Because now Joey Pants is in the soup too, because he killed Chris Maloney and he killed the Don.
So great scene. She's in the bathroom. He's like, don't fucking do anything or I'll fucking shoot you. Like, don't get smart. Gina Gershon's in the closet. And he's, she's all bruised up now. And he's like, just stay here.
Yeah,
I'm going to pretend that I was in the shower.
Yeah, he tries to distract the mobsters. Yeah,
I didn't hear the phone ring because I was in the shower.
And then Tilly calls him.
Yes.
And says, like, just pretend like there was a car accident and that's why the mobsters didn't show up.
She calls and pretends to be Maloney.
Yeah.
And is like, I'm creating a fake phone call for you so that you have an alibi and the story checks out. But then she's also like, I'm also getting half the money. Like, do as I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he tells the new mobsters this. They buy it. They leave. And then how does it exactly... I mean, it plays out that Corky kills Joey Pants. Corky kills Caesar.
Yeah, they...
Caesar goes to get
no,
the money.
Violet kills Caesar.
Yeah, no, Violet. Right,
Yeah.
of course. Sorry, yeah.
There's a great...
No, which is crucial, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, Corky finally... I mean, Caesar finally gets out of Corky. The money's in the paint cans. He goes to get it.
Yeah.
He's finally vulnerable. Violet, with a weapon, points a gun at him, and he's like, if you were going to kill me, you'd have killed me before. Like, I know you're not going to kill me. And she says, like, Caesar, you don't know shit. And then she
You don't know shit about
shoots
me.
him a bunch.
Yeah.
And he dies, like, in this, like, big puddle of paint. And there's, like,
So it's
blood
like white
everywhere.
and red.
It's great.
The best.
It's the best.
Can I talk about another sequence I love? when Jennifer Tilly's trying to get away and she runs down the stairs, and there are these great
these sort of moves up and down the banisters. Yeah.
Right. So she's like running down the stairs. There's a great shot from like the stairwell where you're looking up and you're seeing them
it's kind of blue velvety.
Yeah. And she makes it down to the ground floor before he does. And you're like, you don't understand why she's like what exactly her plan is, like what she's doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't totally make sense. The second she gets downstairs, she runs to the elevator. And it's like, if she can get the elevator back upstairs, she has like 3 minutes
to get the gun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool to like get Gershon and get the gun.
And it's a great low stakes action scene.
Yeah.
You know, like that's highest, like low budget action scene, basically. Like high tension, low budget.
Action scenes are about the stakes, you know? It's
that's
not
right. Yeah, stakes is the wrong word, but yeah. It's not low stakes. It's high stakes, but it's
high stakes, but it's like it's not flashy.
It's a small set piece.
It's a small set piece, but the stakes are so clear.
Yeah.
The spatial geography is so clear. You understand what every character is trying to do.
Right.
And you're like edge of your seat.
Now, here's the thing. Like, if this were a 40s Billy Wilder movie or a Hitchcock movie, in a sort of Hays Code, Hollywood movie, like a classic noir.
It'd be sort of winking.
Well, no, but no, the other thing is, like, everyone would be dead or in prison at the end of this movie.
Correct.
Like, everyone would get their comeuppance. Anyone who does bad stuff, like steals or kills, would be, like, would meet some sort of justice.
And they would imply that they were lovers, but not be able to actually call
forget all that.
But I'm
yeah,
saying
of course.
Both elements, I think, are important.
Sure,
looking
absolutely.
at it as a film that was made in the time it was made.
But here's what happens in this movie. They kill Joey Pants. They convince the mobsters that Joey Pants took the money.
Yeah.
The mobsters are like, hey, fuck that guy. We'll go get him. I get it. You want to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, and Violet's like, great. She escapes with Corky and $2 million in a bag. The end.
Yeah.
And they'll go off and be happy.
Just go live their truth.
It's great.
Be millionaires. Good movie.
It's great.
Great characters. Happy to see things work out well for them. For a while there, I was worried. But it all works out.
About them?
I was worried about them. I liked them. I wanted things to be nice in the end.
There's some... Here, talk for a second. There's some famous thing that I want to try and find.
Ben, any additional thoughts on the film for you?
Well, I would say, in the end, I mean, fuck, the Wachowskis definitely passed the test with this.
Yeah, right?
It's so good.
It's so good. And for a first movie, it's insane.
Yeah, it's got a great story. It's got really cool visual elements. Like, they set out to do that, and I'm sure they impressed the executives and got to make The Matrix.
Here's another thing I'll say about it too, right? Like, if we're talking writer-directors, right? People who are multi-hyphenates and do both. Very often, they start out being better at one thing than the other thing,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, a lot of filmmakers are better at one than the other. But the people who become masters, they start out, okay, they're a good shooter, and then their scripts get better, or vice versa. This is a film where, like, both skill sets are in full force. And it's actually, I mean, the thing it's sort of similar to is Blood Simple in that way.
Absolutely, a lot like Blood Simple.
Here's this two-headed filmmaker. These siblings who clearly have this very close, like symbiotic relationship, right? And are able to just sort of, like, do twice as much work because they have another person at their side. And just this script that's super tight, this really fucking sharp, like, cinematic language, like, really, like, no-fat filmmaking. And just like a bold like statement of like we're fucking here to stay. We're real deal filmmakers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to say one thing we forgot to mention. This movie was produced by Dino De Laurentiis, another famous parody of a Hollywood filmmaker producer.
And Aaron Spelling?
Is that right? I didn't know.
The production company before the movie was the Spelling Company.
Oh, well, he's not listed as a producer, but maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
But Dino De Laurentiis, who is like this, crazy Italian guy who made a lot of great movies and a lot of terrible movies.
He made the King Kong remake.
He also made like Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Or is it Manhunter? I think it's Manhunter.
He made Manhunter, so he retained the rights.
Right.
He didn't do Silence of the Lambs, but then he produced all the other Hannibal.
He produced Hannibal and right. Yeah. He's always been
Red Dragon.
Cash cow. Yeah.
So he's now dead. He's also the father of Giada De Laurentiis, or grandfather.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say about him is we went to the Wachowskis and in what can I only imagine was a cartoonish Super Mario Brothers accent said like, don't make it a lesbians. Make it, get a guy in there. It's more commercial. I don't know how he actually talked.
I heard Arnold Schwarzenegger on a podcast.
And they refused. They were like, this is not how, like, that's not the idea of this movie. The idea of this movie is very tied to the fact that these are two women.
De Laurentiis produced the Conan the Barbarian movies. And I heard some podcast where Arnold Schwarzenegger was talking about that process, and it was Arnold Schwarzenegger doing his impression of
Gina De Laurentiis.
So it was like a hat on a hat. It was like one of the cartooniest accents of all time trying to do another of the cartooniest accents of all time. My favorite thing about watching Dino De Laurentiis productions, going through the credits and seeing how many people have De Laurentiis as a last name.
Hey man, he was old school.
I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's like fun. It's like, oh, Michelle De Laurentiis was the caterer?
Right.
Like there's just a lot of De Laurentiises.
Yeah.
It's a family business.
The movie was not a hit by any means. It made like $4 million. Basically didn't even make its budget back.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was. It became a cult hit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it had a pretty long life on video, and became sort of like this. Don't make any jokes. Became this sort of like legendary little cult movie.
It's huge on Kazaa.
And
That was the only joke I was gonna make. I wasn't.
It's great.
It's a great movie.
And it was enough to convince, I guess, Warner Brothers and Silver Pictures to take this chance on the Matrix script.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a big home video seller. I'd have a tough time watching this movie in a theater.
Like we said, these VHS legends of the 90s. These great trashy thrillers, except this is even better than, Jade or whatever,
But also, if you're a film kid and you see The Matrix, you walk out there and go, I gotta fucking see what these...
Well, of course.
Wachowskis, what do they make?
That increased the...
Where'd they come from?
The legend of this movie, way more, because it's
Yeah.
weird, that's the movie they made before The Matrix?
I can't believe I hadn't seen it until now. But you know what? It was a pleasant treat, because I've seen all these other films, so it's like, this is the one I get to discover fresh.
So a little bit of trivia.
Please.
I'll lay some trivia on you.
Is this the IMDb trivia section?
It is. Take it with a grain of salt. At first, Jennifer Tilly was going to play Corky, and the actress who was going to play Violet, whoever that was, dropped out, and they found Gina Gershon, who was suddenly available or whatever, and Jennifer Tilly agreed she'd be a better Corky and happily switched roles.
A better Violet.
She agreed Gina Gershon would be a better Corky.
Good call.
Yeah. Gershon then recommended Joey Pants.
Yeah.
So she brought Joey Pants on board.
Interesting.
They told Joey Pants to watch The Treasure of the Sierra Madre to base his performance on Bogart. They liked that, as a sort of Caesar's kind of chip on the shoulder, attitude-y kind of performance. He's so good.
Yeah.
Susie Bright, they sent her the script. They loved her, and she said, this is a great script, and the women are having sex and enjoying it and not apologizing, which is very rare for any Hollywood movie, and said, but the script's low on details for the sex scene. Can I, design the sex scenes for you? And obviously, that's one reason the sex scene works so well.
And the rest was history,
Marcia Gay Harden auditioned. She would have been good.
Oh, she would have been good. For which one?
It doesn't say, but, she'd probably work in either.
I'd say her role in Miller's Crossing is pretty similar to Violet in this. There's,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as the sort of gangster's mole.
The
classic
but the one who's
mole.
actually sort of running the thing. You can watch that movie and put together a pretty clear parallel universe version of her being in that.
Jennifer Tilly considers Violet her greatest role.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's her most three-dimensional, sort of fully fleshed out role with a lot of agency. She's hilarious in Bullets Over Broadway, but she's playing a stereotype. She's playing the airhead actress.
I can't put a better metaphor than the gun thing, the loaded gun thing. Jennifer Tilly's a really good pair of cowboy boots. And it's you have to know when to wear cowboy boots. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you have to match them with your outfit. It has to be of a piece.
Right.
But great fucking boots.
One Violet was Linda Hamilton was almost Violet.
Linda Hamilton,
which she would have been a better Corky almost because she's tough as nails.
Yeah,
you think of her in Terminator.
Maybe she's trying to play against type. I don't know.
Shot in 38 days. Yeah. This is also Joey Pants' favorite role of his.
God, I think he's so good in The Matrix. I would have given an Oscar nomination for The Matrix.
He's fantastic in The Matrix.
His
I think
steak
I would have
monologue.
given his steak monologue's great. I would have given him a Oscar nomination for Memento, which I think is one of his best performances.
Rewatch Memento. I've only seen it once.
You've only seen it once?
Yeah. Which means I haven't even really seen it, With a film like that?
You should definitely rewatch
Yeah, I watched
Memento.
it once,
Maybe
probably.
we'll do Nolan one day, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Nolan's a classic
I'll
blank
save
checker.
it. Yeah.
A classic blank checker.
He's a classic blank checker. God, the one we always talk about wanting to do, and it's come up recently, Jimmy Cameron, the great Jimmy Cameron.
Jimmy Cameron.
I like keep on being like, oh, God, we'll just wait for like Avatar 2.
Look, the man
so we can
takes a
time it
while.
up with that, but it keeps on. Now we're getting 5 of them.
He went to CinemaCon yesterday,
Yeah.
which is a stupid industry conference of cinema chains and studios.
It's theater owners and the stars come out and they're like, you got to book my movie. People are going to love it.
Which makes no sense because it's like, do you think Paramount is gonna has to sell them on like Mission Impossible 6 or whatever? Like
Yeah.
I think they're like, yeah, definitely. Like we weren't worried about that.
Yeah, but like Warner Brothers sends Kevin Hart out and he's like, please put my movie in your theaters.
It's not like they come out and they say like, we've got this indie project, but we really think it's gonna pop. They
Right.
just come out and say like,
The biggest
plenty
stuff.
of Avengers movies on the way.
Yeah, as if all these like exhibitors are saying they're going like, I don't know if we should book a Kevin Hart movie.
So it's just become
Those movies make a lot of money. That would be a weird choice.
It has just become another place for studios to just like promote their upcoming franchises and say like, we've got films planned through 2023 or what
it's as much about your Devin Faracis and your Peter Sorettas and so forth and
Hey,
so
look,
on.
I
Covering,
I love Devin. I mean,
I'm not saying that in a negative way.
But like,
No.
Devin's fun because he's at this thing and he's
calling
like,
bullshit
He's
on it.
calling bullshit on
Yeah.
it. But, but yes, absolutely.
No, but
the
what
sort
I-
of LA industry, like film blogger types.
What
are
I
all
mean
there.
is that this convention that's ostensibly just to sell the theater owners has as much become like a press event
Yeah,
to show footage for the first time.
Right.
But it's a weird thing that doesn't really make sense anymore.
It doesn't. Anyway, Jim Cameron was there. I guess who made Avatar? Fox.
Fox.
Yeah. And he said like cinematic universes. I got a cinematic universe for you. Avatar 2, Avatar 3, Avatar 4, Avatar 5.
Right. So
And
Avatar,
everyone's reaction was like, "What the fuck is that for? 5 avatars?
Avatar 2, I think, was originally supposed to come out last December.
Something like that around now."
That was like the original date.
because
Like,
the first one came out in 2009.
yes. Yeah, I think that was the original plan. And he was like, okay, it's going to take a little longer, but I got 3 of them.
Yeah.
And then it was like, we're pushing it back a little, but good news, it's 4.
And like no one's ever gotten out of Zoe Saldana or whoever if they've actually like shot Avatar movies.
Yeah,
you
very
know?
unclear.
The whole thing is always, I mean, where the original Avatar was too, where it was like people would say to Zoe Saldana or Sam Worthington, like, so Avatar, and they're like, yeah, I guess so. I think I shot that like 3 years ago now. I guess it's coming out, like,
There was, God, I wish I could properly credit this person, but there was an amazing tweet I saw yesterday after the announcement, which was like, Cameron announcing more Avatar movies while he also delays the next one is sort of like the principal in Breakfast Club, like the scene where he's like, "You want 6 weeks detention? Let's make it 6." He's like,
Right.
"Fine, 7."
Right.
Like, it's like this game of like, wasn't Avatar 2 supposed to come out a month ago? And he's like, "Yeah, but now we got 7 of them. Don't worry about it."
I mean,
We'll do Jim Cameron at some point.
we should definitely do Jim Cameron at some point soon.
Jimmy Cameron.
Because I think my tweet was along the lines of like, if Jim Cameron thinks we need 5 avatars, then we need 5 avatars because he doesn't make bad movies.
Yeah, he also, anytime he's
Now, a lot
done
of people
something,
think Avatar's a bad movie,
those
but I
people
disagree with them.
are wrong.
They are wrong.
Hardcore
Ben, how do you
wrong.
feel about Avatar?
I never saw it.
Ben, do you know the central conceit of Avatar?
There's like a blue race of people.
Do you know the height of those blue people?
Oh wait, no.
They're like 10 feet tall.
They're big?
They are big.
Get the fuck out of
I
here.
forgot about that.
Oh,
yeah, they're
shit.
like really big, Ben.
I love this. I want to see this
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, you'll love it, Ben.
Oh my god. All right, I'm excited. You know what? I might even watch that and then report back next week. We'll see.
Okay. Well, and speaking of reports, I think it's time for our favorite segment to close out the
God.
episode. The Burger Report.
Yeah.
So, of course,
Yeah, baby.
this is a segment that we sometimes remember to do.
Yeah, in which we talk about seeing famous people eating burgers. It was inspired by that time I saw Michael Shannon eat a burger.
And I saw a Chivo.
Chivo Lubeski. Yes. And
so now it's a segment
Ben
that has-
Hosley basically has seen every American president eat a burger while like getting like fellatio from Marilyn Monroe. Like he's seen like the most salacious, incredible things when he worked at the Spotted Pig, a restaurant known for its burger.
I just love that it's a segment that has nothing to do with the rest of our podcast.
But
I like it as a through line.
You were in L.A. You were in
I know.
Los Angeles.
And guess what? I went to Umami Burger, big fat goose egg.
Oh, there was nobody.
Big fat goose egg. I saw my bestest friend, Derek Simon.
How's he doing?
He's doing great. He's
Does
a
he
writer.
listen? He listens. Does he listen?
I think he does.
I don't know. Hey, Derek, if you listen.
He's a writer for Supergirl. That
He
was
is.
the closest I got to a famo. And I've known him since I was 10.
Wow.
So that doesn't count.
It doesn't.
So yeah, I unfortunately came up short, but I'm going to make a promise to the listeners. I'm going to try to attend as many burger joints as I can in the next week.
I'm trying to eat
here
less
in New
burgers,
York.
to
I'm
be
trying to eat
honest.
more just because I feel like we need content. You know what I'm saying? But Ben, do you want to serve us up a nice patty?
Yeah, are
of,
you out, Ben, or do you have any more?
No, I actually honestly could keep this going for a while.
Fantastic.
Good thing, because we're never ending this segment.
Great.
So, like, we've been like, Michael Shannon, the cinematographer from The Revenant. Ben's been like, Kanye West, LeBron James, like the most famous people.
LeBron James got a haircut at the bar, and then I served him a burger.
Yeah.
What was your story?
Allegedly.
According to you.
Allegedly.
Okay.
So Jay-Z's book.
Oh boy, this is already such a good story.
Oh, Jay-Z's book. What was it called? Like,
I don't remember.
Decoded? No,
yeah,
no.
I think it was Decoded.
Well, it wasn't that, but it was something close.
So he is like a part owner of the restaurant group that is like falls under the umbrella like that the Spotted Pig is part of.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Does that
called
make sense?
Decoded. I was right.
Nice work.
Yeah.
So he
He's
an investor.
He has a little chunk of the Spotted Pig.
Exactly. And so he had an event around the premiere of his book at the Spotted Pig. And there was a bunch of people there. It was really cool. It was like Chris Rock.
Damn.
I'm like blanking, like maybe like Alicia Keys.
Okay. Was
But
Beyonce
a bunch
there?
of so that's what the story is like.
Oh.
How does he do this?
How does Ben do this?
Bosley.
He's the fucking best in the biz.
Bosley.
That's how he does it.
So the Jay-Z and Beyonce came in, and they were kind of just chatting with people. But then at one point, went to this. If you know the Spotted Pig on the second floor, there's like a little like kind of alcove, like a little separate area. And when we have VIPs, sometimes we'll put the curtains up so they feel like they're a little more secluded. And so basically, I got the opportunity to have some FaceTime with Beyonce and Jay-Z, and they were super nice. They were really lovely people.
That's very nice to hear.
I will say, I don't remember. They might have got a burger. I don't remember exactly, but I will say that Beyonce was probably one of the most beautiful women, if not the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in person.
Now, Ben, God,
Are you going to chew him out?
a little bit. I mean, I thank you for sharing this story with us. But Ben, I mean, you're saying maybe they got a burger. We can't. We have listeners at home. This is the Burger Report.
Right.
Come
We
on.
can't be wishy-washy with
No.
this.
No, okay. How about this? Beyonce, she got a burger.
Oh my God!
Whoa!
Medium rare.
American cheese on that?
She got American cheese.
Smart.
And medium rare, girl.
I want to say something that I feel to be profoundly and violently true. If you get a burger with any kind of cheese that's not American cheese, you fucking suck and you're a communist and you should
Whoa.
be thrown in jail.
Sounds like
Strong
I'm
words.
a communist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
baby.
definitely a communist.
Yep. Only American cheese.
Because I fuck around with them cheeses.
Nope. When I'm at some fancy place and they're like, we put Gruyere on it. I'm like, how about you take the Gruyere off and put on a slice of Kraft American cheese? I don't care if your burger's made out of, filet mignon.
You know what I say?
What?
I say, you can call me Cookie Monster, because I'll take a slice of Munster cheese on my burger.
I will say, Munster is a terrific cheese.
Hells yeah.
It melts very well.
I like some crumbled blue.
No, you lost me.
Love it.
Lost me.
Hey, stay tuned for the next Burger Report. Let's talk about John Mayer.
Oh, that's a good tease.
Oh, New York City legendary asshole John Mayer.
God, that's such a good cliffhanger.
Yeah, let's
That's
just say
great.
he was wearing a puffy vest jacket.
Don't tell us no more. Tell us no more. Save it for the next episode. We need listeners to come back because God knows no one's going to want to hear us talk about The Matrix, one of the biggest movies of all time.
Of course.
Love the Wachowskis.
They're great.
I'm very excited to talk about this episode. I mean, these directors.
We were saying before we record this, like, it's nice to go into a miniseries and be like, I'm
Excited
I'm
to
not
watch all these
bummed about
things.
watching any of these movies. There are none of these movies
Absolutely.
where I'm like, oh, fuck, it's that time of the week again.
Yeah. I mean, some people I think would disagree and say that the Matrix sequels or even like Cloud Atlas or Jupiter Ascending are chores. No, they are not. They're great.
Yep.
So there's not one that you don't like?
I don't like the Matrix sequels, but I haven't seen them since they came out.
Yeah. You're probably still not going to like them, but we'll
I don't
see.
know. I liked Reloaded okay.
But you're excited to rewatch them. Is
I'm
what
very
you're
excited to
saying.
rewatch
Right.
it. I strongly disliked Revolutions. I would say Revolutions is the only film of theirs I disliked, but I have not seen it since then.
Yeah, we'll see.
And I don't stand behind anything I believed when I was 14 years old.
Yeah. I also at the time strongly disliked them, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But next week we're going to do an episode about The Matrix.
The Matrix,
which was a successful film.
It was a big
in
movie.
1999.
Hey, you know what's interesting?
Mm-hmm.
The Matrix,
Yeah,
Sixth Sense, The Phantom Menace.
1999, baby.
Maybe
this podcast should be called 1999,
baby. No, but
baby.
Isn't that crazy that the three films that we've really focused on, that everything our investigations have spun out of all three, 99.
They're directors who popped in 99, which is generally agreed to be a high point in American cinema and worldwide cinema, but especially
Georgie Porgy
Hollywood.
didn't pop until 99. That was when he got his moment.
He popped in 99.
Yeah.
Maybe he'd pop before.
Big pop.
Big Poppy.
Pop. George Lucas, we love you.
Georgie, make a movie. Make one of your weird art movies, Georgie. Make a fucking movie about a car going around a track.
Make a movie about anything.
Yeah, seriously.
And for all our new listeners, if you want to understand this bit, go back to our original 3 seasons of the...
Go back to our original 36 episodes.
Yeah.
And you'll get it.
Yeah. The Phantom Podcast, Attack of the Podcast, Revenge of the Podcast. Great listens all.
They are.
Yeah.
And then you can listen. Yeah, we talked about M. Night Shyamalan. You can listen to that.
Rate, review, subscribe. Ben, you threw out last week the challenge to see if anyone could write a book report on what's it called? I Got Schooled, M. Night Shyamalan's.
Yeah, and we've gotten some tweets about that. Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan's book about the education reform, basically.
Yeah. Yes. It's his book explaining how he would. It's essentially the cookbook if the cookbook was focused only on fixing schools. But it's a lot of crazy ideas that people might not like.
I found a review that's really annoyed at me. I should read it out loud on iTunes.
Oh, yeah, please.
This is from Steve Marth. Crabby David ruins it. Oh, but were you going to finish your point?
Well, I was just going to say, so this is a running thing. Some people have tweeted us, showed us that they've checked out the book from their libraries. Of course, if you've read the book, you want to write a book report, send it to us. We'll read it on air. The first person to...
but keep it short, guys.
Keep it short. We might not read the whole
200
thing.
words, please.
Yes. But first person, I'll say this. First person to send us a book report gets a Comtech chip. I think I still got some Comtech chips left.
But don't make the report anything like Griffin's book report.
No, that was not a book report.
Or you know what I mean,
that was a research paper. But yes, please. Use that as an example of what not to do. Review.
Oh, Steve Marth. He gave us 3 stars because I ruined the podcast. Jeez. Crabby David ruins it. I was burning through the star... I can't read the whole thing. It's long. But apparently, during the Star Wars episodes, we hit a point definitely around the original trilogy, maybe but a little before, and unbearable on Return of the Jedi, where whenever David Griffin tries to talk about something, David gets really crabby and makes him hurry up and says something like, all right, what's your point? Hurry up. It's funny once, but it gets funny and stressful. David, we're listening to the podcast because we like hearing you guys talk about this stuff. All right, buddy. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, good review. Finish it up. Get to the point.
Apparently, our friendly banter got downright hostile. I think a couple things. One, the Return of the Jedi episode, I snapped at you. Because you were driving me crazy, but also because we were so worked up about the fucking Force Awakens.
We were recording 3 episodes in one day.
We were recording 3 episodes in one day in between the day that all the press had seen the Force Awakens and the day that we could see it.
So a bunch
on that
of our
Wednesday.
buddies had seen it.
It was crazy.
And here we were recording a fucking Star Wars
and
podcast.
You start going on about Marsha fucking Lucas.
Well, I think it's a fascinating...
It is. It's fascinating. But also we had to wrap it up tightly, and we had talked about maybe Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi.
That's all that's worth talking about. I only fuck with Jabba.
We had 2 hours of movie to go, and you were anyway, so Marsha Lucas. But
love Marsha.
But anyway,
Marsha,
I know I snapped at Griffin, but you know what, guys? If I didn't do it, he'd literally talk for 5 hours about
and
God knows what.
Here's the thing. I think that's the dynamic. Do you know what I'm saying?
Hey, man, if you don't like it, I get it.
I'm gonna be annoying, and you're gonna snap at me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if you didn't cut me off,
then you would have talked for 40 minutes about jerking off to a Kazaa clip of Bound.
Right. And if I didn't...
And would anyone have enjoyed that? Yeah, probably.
But also, here's the thing. You don't want none of that.
No, you would need a little bit, but there's got to be,
the push and pull.
It's a rubber band.
There's the push and pull. That's the dynamic. It's salt and vinegar. On a potato chip. Oil and vinegar? I don't know.
You got a poet laureate on your side.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the secret sauce. You look at reviews now, I would say 75% of our reviews now single out Ben as the elements of the show.
The black dark side, spelled like the DC villain dark side.
Okay.
Said Griffin and David are not the heroes podcasting deserves. Agreed.
Agreed.
We are not.
Nope.
And then Ben, of course, is a revelation. That's the whole review. So,
I think that's the end of our episode. I think that's all that needs to be said.
You're a revelation, Ben. Anyway, yeah, it's very exciting. New miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
We don't totally know what we're going to do after this, so if you want to suggest stuff to us, I suppose we will listen on, we're at Blank Check Pod on Twitter.
And Gmail. We've had some thoughts, but yeah, nothing locked down. So please, maybe we'll do a Twitter poll at some point with some of the candidates we're considering and see what people want.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about Cameron Crowe.
Yep.
We've talked about James Cameron Crowe. We've talked about Christopher Nolan.
Yep.
Who else have we talked about?
A couple other I'm forgetting.
Yeah. Some good candidates out there.
Yeah. We talked at one point about doing specifically post-Oscar Spielberg.
Oh, that's right. That's a good one. Yeah. Spielberg after his 1993 success with Schindler's List.
His choices get really interesting after that.
They do. A lot of good ideas. A lot of fun.
Look, the only way you're going to know what we do is to keep listening. That's all you got to do. You just got to listen to the podcast.
So Bound, I hope we weren't too lame. I don't know. I think this is a good episode.
I think so, too. It's a great movie. Watch the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the movie.
Next week, we're going to talk about the Matrix.
The Le Matrix.
Le Matrix.
Yep.
Thank you for listening.
Yep. And as always...
well, before that, I just want to say just a big shout out to the Haas Hogs, the David Dog, the Griff Heads, and the Blankies.
And our wonderful fans, the Blankies.
Yes. And as always, apologies for being shitty, stupid bullshit.
What?
Straight through.
Yeah, we're fine.
I don't know if we're fine.
This has been a UCB comedy production. Check out our other shows on the UCB Comedy Podcast Network.